Hey friends, welcome. Grab a seat, get comfortable, and let's have an honest conversation about setting up your environment for success. So, are you trying to beat food addiction, but the cravings kind of still keep pulling you back in? I get it. I used to think I just needed more willpower. I told myself, this time I'll be stronger, but every time I found myself right back in the kitchen and I was staring at the food that I swore I wouldn't eat anymore. Or at my favorite fast food restaurant going through the drive-thru. Ugh. Nothing seemed to work, but then I found the truth. And that was that willpower is a trap. It's unreliable, it runs out, and it's not the way to break free from food addiction. I know I talk a lot about willpower. I guess what I'm really trying to do is rewire your brain to stop relying on it once and for all. But I want to talk to you about what I've kind of figured out. So, I tell you to just have more willpower. Just resist, just say no. But, if you've struggled with food addiction, willpower is just a big joke. It's like trying to hold back a tidal wave with a sandcastle. I mean, come on now. The truth is, willpower alone isn't going to save you. The key is going to be setting up your environment so that you don't need willpower in the first place. So I knew if I wanted to stop struggling, I had to stop relying on willpower and start designing my environment for success. And today, that's what I'm going to do is tell you exactly how I did that. And that way you can do it too. Because when you set your life up in a way that makes healthy choices automatic, those cravings, they lose their power over you. So let's get real. If willpower worked, I wouldn't have spent years trapped in a cycle of food addiction, and neither would millions of other people. And just to throw a study in here, studies do show that willpower is like a finite resource. So it's kind of like a battery that drains throughout the day. Every decision you make, every stressor you're going to deal with, every temptation that you resist, it all wears you down. And by the end of the day, when you're tired and stressed, guess what happens? Those cravings, they win. But I got some good news for you. You don't need to fight cravings if they never show up in the first place. So the key is to control your environment. That way you don't even have to think about resisting junk food or food that's not good for you. You just make it easy to eat well and hard to eat poor. So I know that kind of sounds simple, right? I also know that simple things can also be hard. I know for me, when I first started on this journey of recovery, even these simple things felt so very hard to do. I would think to myself, why is this so hard? I see people every single day where it seems that they're able to just do all of these things and it's so easy to them. I had to remind myself, first of all, not to compare myself to other people because I have no clue what they're going through. I have no clue where they're at in their journey. And just because everything looks easy doesn't mean it is. Also, they might not have a food addiction, and so it might truly not be hard for them. But in the beginning, everything was hard. I realized that I had to do those hard things in order to make a difference in my life. I know that's cliche to say it, but it is true. Doing hard things does make you stronger, and in my case, healthier. It also does other things like build character and so forth. So I knew I just had to keep doing the same things consistently, and then it would be easier to do and eventually become second nature. It really has, trust me. I know you might not believe me, but try it for 30 days and see if it doesn't get easier for you too. So now back to controlling your environment. Sorry I got off on that little tangent. But I just want to start first by saying that controlling your environment isn't just about your kitchen. So let me talk to you a little bit about why your environment matters more than your willpower. Because as we've talked about, willpower is just not a, reliable source. So if you have junk food in your house, then you are going to eat it. I promise. That's just how our brains work. We're wired to seek out that high calorie dopamine releasing food. And the more accessible it is, the harder it's going to be to resist. So if you create an environment where only healthy options are available, nourishing foods, then you're taking away the whole battle before it even begins. So I came up with a 5-step plan to help me, and I want to share that with you today. So first, this first step, mindset shift, seeing food for what it really is. So before I even touched my kitchen, I had to change how I saw food. So for years, I thought of food as comfort, entertainment, something to turn to when I was stressed or bored or sad. But I had to rewire my brain to see food as fuel and not as a coping mechanism. So I started journaling every single time I craved something unhealthy. What I was feeling, was I actually hungry or was I just emotional wreck? So I reminded myself every single day that food addiction is real, just like drug or alcohol addiction. And just like a recovering addict wouldn't keep their drug of choice around, I couldn't keep my trigger foods in the house. So I also changed my self-talk from I can't have that to I don't want that or I don't eat that. This is a very tiny shift, but it made a very huge difference. It wasn't just about restriction, it was about my identity. So here's a little side story for you. When I started this, I had people all the time coming to me and they would say things like, well, you're being too restrictive. Why are you always saying no to all these foods? Food isn't bad. You have to have food to live. And I would say things to myself like, I can't resist. I'm never going to be able to change. I'm just weak around food. Instead of seeing food as something that I couldn't control, I began to view it as something that could either fuel my body or hinder my progress. So over time, I realized I could choose a different response. Instead of telling myself I can't resist, I would remind myself I have the strength to make better choices. Instead of saying I'm never going to change, I replaced it with every day as a new opportunity to grow and heal. And each time I reframed those thoughts, the urge to eat mindlessly grew weaker. Instead of saying this is restrictive, I said this is protective. So the way I was eating was protecting my body and my mind and me. And so as I shifted that mindset, my food choices naturally started to align with those beliefs. So I no longer was trapped by guilt or shame, and I began to embrace recovery, one positive thought at a time. So my journey isn't perfect. There were and are still moments of struggle, but every time I replaced negative self-talk with empowering thoughts, I grew stronger. And over time, those empowering thoughts became the foundation of my new, healthier life. So once my mindset was locked in, then it was time to change the surroundings. So step 2 was removing trigger foods from my home. So if you have junk food in the house, guess what? You're going to eat it. That's just how our brains work. We're wired to seek out those high-calorie, dopamine-releasing foods. I think I talked about that earlier. The more accessible they are, the harder it is to resist them. But if you create an environment where the only options are healthy and nourishing foods, then you're taking away that battle before it even begins. I think I already said that once before. So let me ask you a question. If you had 0 junk food in your house right now, how much of it would you eat? That's exactly right. You can't eat what's not there. So that was a hard pill for me to swallow at first. I told myself, I'll just have better self-control, or I'm only going to eat a little bit. But to be honest with you, when you're knee-deep in addiction, there's no such thing as just one bite. So I made myself a rule. If a food triggers me, it doesn't live in my house, period. So I went through my kitchen and I tossed anything processed, hyper-palatable, or designed to be addictive. So goodbye chips, cookies, cereals, anything with refined sugar, salt, or oil, because even healthy processed foods can keep triggering binges. I even got rid of all the salt shakers and, the big thing of salt. I had a couple of those. I got rid of those. Food that made me lose control, even if they weren't technically junk food. So for me, things like nut butters. And speaking of nut butters, let me just tell you a story of me and peanut butter. So I absolutely love peanut butter. And that didn't change just because I decided it was time for me to change my life. I just found a brand that was organic and that the only ingredient in it was peanuts. So no salt, no oil, no sugar, just peanuts. Well, I would go back to the fridge, get it out, and add it to a banana or some overnight oats, and it would be half gone, or in some cases, almost all gone. I would fuss at my husband, asking him, "Why did you eat all this peanut butter?" And he would say he hadn't touched it. That is when I realized that I was getting into that jar and eating it without even knowing I was doing it. And that is way, 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 way too much of even a good thing or a better thing, I guess, but too much of it. It's still so calorie dense, and so I decided that no more peanut butter in the house, at least not for now. So, back to what I was saying before. Now, if I want junk food, I have to physically leave my house, drive to the store, shop for it, and drive home. And guess what? Most of the time, these extra steps is enough to stop me. Even before I changed my lifestyle and started into recovery, if I wanted ice cream and it wasn't in the house, I was not getting in the car, driving 15 minutes to the store, shopping for it, driving home to eat it. I just not going to do it. So, as we talked about before, cravings usually only last for 15 minutes at max. So I even knew by the time that I just got to the store, I wouldn't want it anymore anyway. So why go through all the trouble? So step 3 is to make healthy food the easy choice. So here's the thing. Your brain loves convenience. If you make healthy food easier to eat than junk food, your brain is naturally going to start choosing it. So I made sure to set up my kitchen in a way that made healthy eating effortless. So I did pre-chopped veggies in clear containers, and I put them at eye level in the fridge. And that way I could just grab them and go and get, anytime I wanted to make a quick salad, or even just like hummus, dip, and just those pre-chopped veggies. I had that just right there. Steam some greens and prep some tofu and put that in the fridge for ready to go meals. Always put a bowl of fruit in the kitchen. So bananas, apples, oranges, always right there, easy to see and grab. And a big water bottle. I have 2 40-ounce water bottles, and I fill them at least twice a day, every single day, and I never go anywhere without them. Sometimes your cravings are actually just dehydration in disguise, so I want to always make sure that I'm very hydrated. And the biggest game changer, for me anyway, was batch cooking. Who would have thought? I never thought I would ever be one of those meal prep type people. But every week I cook a massive amount of food, so steamed vegetables, or sometimes I roast vegetables on the pan, baked potatoes, beans, quinoa, tofu, salad veggies, a super chili. There's always a healthy meal that's ready to go. And I'm going to be real with you. When you're tired and you're hungry, you're going to spend 30 minutes cooking or grabbing whatever is fast. So make sure the fast option is the right option. That's what I did. Now I just take a little bit from all that I've batch cooked and I make me a very healthy bowl of food, or grab some soup I've made, or make a quick salad. And then maybe for dessert I'll have some berries or just a little frozen ice cream or something, which is basically just bananas and another fruit mixed up in the Vitamix blender or the food processor. This makes meals so much easier. I don't even have to think about them. And a little fact about me and batch cooking. As I mentioned before, I never thought I'd be a prepper. I also thought I would hate doing it. And I still don't love it. but it does give me some time to listen to a podcast and just get in the zone. But what I do love about this is it just takes a day to do it. So there's zero guessing for the rest of the week. And I don't have to worry about what I'm going to eat. So my breakfast is ready to go. My lunch is ready. And then when dinner rolls around again and I'm ready to eat, and it's done. So it also, what I do love, cuts down on dishes. Not really a dish person, so this is nice. It helps me out. So this is not just a game changer for me, but it helps also with my mental space as well. I also feel like 6 days a week, I have so much more time in the day. So step 4, create an emergency plan for cravings. So even with a perfectly set up environment, cravings still hit sometimes. And when they do, you need a plan, not the willpower. So here's my plan and what I do. I've touched on this a little bit before, but it's always worth repeating. I've also put together a little emergency guide. If you're interested, I can put it down in the description for you. But without further ado, here is my emergency plan in short. So I pause for 5 minutes and I tell myself, I can have that if I still want it in 5 minutes. 99.9% of the time, that craving passes. I drink water or sometimes some herbal tea. I'm not a huge tea drinker, but I do drink it from time to time. Sometimes I'm just thirsty, so that helps take that away. I'll go for a walk because changing your environment helps shift your mindset, or it does for me anyway. And eating a healthy alternative. If I'm truly, truly hungry, I'll have something that's whole food plant-based. So usually fruit or steamed veggies. And trust me, if a carrot doesn't taste good or sound appealing, then you're not really hungry, I promise. So reminding myself of my why. So I look at my vision board or read my journal or watch my old videos of myself struggling. Yes, I took lots of videos of myself when I was, struggling. This way I can remember why I'm doing this. By the time I go through this entire list, the craving is usually always gone. And if it's not, I will just move on with my day. Because sometimes it's just the raw emotions and you have to sit in that emotion and you have to feel it and there's nothing else to do. So I just do that. Step 4 is changing your social environment. Now, you can have the perfect kitchen set up, but if your social life is full of people who are constantly pushing junk food, it's really, really hard to stay on track. So for me personally, I did make a few changes in that area. I stopped hanging out in places that triggered me. So no more going to casual trips to fast food joints just to socialize with people. I made sure to set clear boundaries with people. I told friends and family, this is my lifestyle now. Please don't offer me food that doesn't align with it. And I surrounded myself with support. I know it can seem harsh, but having those people who support me in my recovery is so important. So if you're someone who didn't do that, then I had to put, up a boundary between you and I. And if you need some support, please feel free to leave me a comment because I'm here to support you always. And you know what happened after I did all of this? I stopped feeling alone. I stopped feeling like I was missing out because I had this new kind of support, one that actually helped me break free. So speaking of support, I am truly blessed because when I talked to my husband and I told him I needed to be supported, he not only said that he would be there for me, he did it with me. And it's been an amazing journey for both of us together, and having that support and him by my side has been just utterly amazing. So step 5, finding new rewards and building new habits. Because I'm going to be honest, food was my reward for everything. A bad day, a good day, boredom, stress, birthdays, anniversaries, holidays. So I had to find new ways to celebrate and to cope. So instead of treating myself with food, I treat myself with self-care now. So a hot bath, a good book, a walk outside, a talk with a friend, and also use a habit tracker to celebrate my wins. So seeing my streak of healthy days grow is so satisfying. And crazy, it's more satisfying than any junk food or stuff like that that I ever imagined. So I remind myself daily that I deserve real health. It's not a temporary dopamine hit from food that I deserve. It's that long-lasting, vibrant health. And as far as the new habits go, when you're addicted to food, eating is always more than just eating. It's a coping mechanism for like everything I mentioned before, for that stress and that boredom and that sadness and everything in between. So I had to replace old food habits with new healthy ones. And I'll just run through a few of those that I did. So I started my morning with movement instead of starting my day with food. So now I go for a walk, I do some stretching, do some rebounding. Before I could do all of those things, I would just, march in place in my chair or, do some leg lifts or something like that. So I would journal. So write about my emotions instead of eating through them. And I practiced some mindful eating techniques. So no more eating in front of the TV or just scrolling on my phone. It was just me, my food, and the awareness. So that really helped. And an evening wind down routine just made all the difference, believe it or not. So instead of nighttime snacking, well, I'll talk about this in another video, but I do cut my dinner time food off, always 4 hours before bedtime, but I usually aim to stop eating between 4 and 5 o'clock every day. So I don't nighttime snack anymore anyway, but I used to, and that was one of the first things that I made sure I didn't do. So I will sometimes read a book, spend some time, with the family. You can hear the dogs barking, I'm sure. So spend some time with those little guys, and or take a warm bath. So the more I reinforce all of these good habits, the less I even thought about food. I don't know about you, but I know that for me, even as a food addict, if I got really busy with something that I enjoyed, I could even forget about food. It was nice. Like I could just keep going and not even think about it. So it's nice to have these new habits to where I don't even have to think about food. The turning point for me, I think, when it finally got easier, because for the longest time, I thought that recovery was always going to feel like this struggle. But once I set up my environment right, once I stopped fighting the cravings and I started making them irrelevant, it finally got easier. So I know when you create an environment that removes temptation, it makes healthy choices effortless. And it also rewires your brain's response to food, believe it or not. And I realized something very powerful. I'm not weak. I'm not broken. I was just stuck in this system that was designed to keep me addicted. And once I changed that system, it changed my life. So my final thoughts for you today is you don't have to rely on willpower. If you take one thing from this whole video, let it be this. Willpower is never the answer. You don't need more self-control. You need a better environment. So set yourself up for success, make healthy eating automatic, remove all the triggers, and build those new habits. Meal prep your food. Create a space that supports your success, and I promise you, you'll see it gets much, much easier. So, what's one small change that you can make to your environment that's going to help you stay on track with your food choices? Let me know in the comments because I would love to hear your strategies. And until our next conversation, remember, your environment shapes your success. Set yourself up for the win, and let's do recovery together. Bye for now.